Hey guys, it's Matt. If you're driving or can't see this, it's actually better if you can't see this. It's a terrible diagram. It's mostly for me, and it's better if you don't read ahead anyway. I'll describe the general gist of what's going on here and describe each section, so you don't need to see this. Most of the videos recently have been, if you had to classify them on one side of the ledger or the other, mostly a screen exercise. So it's time to come back and simply do the half page. Half page existence here, to me, in my opinion, once you see through all the bullshit, it could not be any more clear or any more simple. It's probably a few sentences. In math and physics, the triangle or the Greek delta means change or difference or relative change. That's how it should be used here. The triangle, the hexagon, the 33, these numbers, they're not their numbers. They're everybody's shapes. They're everybody's numbers. If they can get everybody to think these things are evil because it's presented on the back of the dollar bill, then that's wonderful for them. Then they've got you right where they want you. The back of the dollar bill, in addition to being some sort of weird energy harvesting and spellcraft, that's what the duality presentation is endless. It also has to be useful to us, in my opinion. It can't be all one or all other. That's why the duality presentation is never ending. The back of the dollar bill, this is basically what I'm presenting here as the back of the dollar bill, and it could not be more simple or more important, in my opinion, to understanding our existence here. So let me just get to it. You're born. Before birth, I agree with the people that have insight that have told me that I agreed to come here. I fully believe that for a lot of different reasons. Then this whole reality, this reality system that you chose to be here at this place and this time, it's the delta. It's change. It's very unlikely or impossible that you will go out as you came in. So the entire reality is strongly constructed at this point and bastardized or adulterated, or maybe it was completely intended to be this way, to pull everybody off to the left. When you're born, you will go into that delta. There will be a change in 70, 80, or 90 years, or for some far less. There will be a change. That's the risk potentially of going into this reality system. This presentation I'm about to make is probably the strongest argument against those that have come to me over the years and said, there's no spiritual consequence for being here. They say to me, there's no spiritual consequence for making the wrong decisions. And I've come around to their point of view to a degree. I was, say, 10 steps over here, and I've come 3 or 4 steps towards their opinion, but I'm not completely there, and mostly because this argument is too strong in the opinion away from the no consequences people. So it's kind of like if someone was talking to you or your higher self was talking to you before you were born, that old thing that I need to completely revise from the book, the last conversation you had before you incarnated to Earth, a form of yourself, for example, where someone would say, you go into that place, you're taking a risk. There will be a change for the good or for the bad. So let me just talk about the diagram here and we'll get back to the specifics. The reality is really rigged at this point to pull almost everybody strongly off to the left. I didn't choose the left for any particular reason, left-hand path or anything. No, that's I'm not into any of that stuff. Somebody emailed me, Matt, why don't you just be straight up in terms of the alchemical symbolism you're presenting? I don't know any of that stuff. I don't want to. It's not what I'm presenting. If I'm showing this as the left-hand path, well, I just chose the left. It's not intentional. I don't know what the hell the left-hand path truly means. I don't really care. I know what I need to do here for myself. That's all that matters. So it wants to pull, and it has successfully pulled most people off to the hard left. And what's listed in the left are things we've been over a million times. At the top, I don't know if you can read it, it's cut off. It just says, join a camp, join groups, put yourself into a classification, move yourself towards the digital, towards Mark Zuckerberg's headsets and blockchain and crypto. Make contracts, make more contracts, bind to it, make Jacob Marley chains. The love of false things would be off the left. False authority on pedestal. Okay, I'm just describing what the diagram's doing. We'll get into the specifics later. It wants everybody thinking along the lines, come over to my left-hand side. And there's no particular reason for that. The left-hand side is a giveaway of energy. It says there right to the left of the triangle point. Give away your energy. Loosh. In the arrows that are pulling you off to the left above the triangle point, it says I, or maybe this is EYE. Is that what the presentation of the I is saying? You can choose the EYE, which represents what this reality, this sick reality system that it's been pretty fully hijacked at this point. Maybe it was always and there's a good chance it was intended to be that way. So finally people would start to see through it and wake up as we are. But is this choosing the EYE, or are you choosing the I? Are you choosing just the letter I, the self, the worry about yourself? That's off to the right. So there's going to be a change if you go into that earth. You go through that door, you will change for the good or for the bad. And to the right is really just the opposite of what's presented on the left. The duality. Here we go again. It's true self versus fake self. Cut attachments, cut ties, see through the tricks. Say you're not your straw man. It's only a train stop. Fix yourself, not try to fix the system or fix the world or take the Hillary Clintons to jail. No, the right side would say, no, fix yourself. Fix yourself. So this is all of reality. It's a few sentences. This is the half page. This reality is a metamorphosis, which gets back to SEE, Ovid, but that is also a homonym for C, the letter C, Ovid. Go see Ovid. Ovid's famous treatise, poem, Iliad, Odyssey type metamorphosis. I think that, to me, that's my first definition. I think COVID, -19 means a lot of different things, as that's typical in their presentation. Different layers, different meanings. My primary interpretation is go see Ovid. Go look up Ovid in the library, metamorphosis, because the biggest time of metamorphosis, from their perspective, is the last 2 years. The biggest time of metamorphosis is the last 2 years. And I'm going to go through almost each one of these individually, guys, but I don't think we have to be perfect. I think, if you have to have everything on the right and give up everything on the left. I don't think so. That's my personal opinion. The going through the eye of the needle, that is a little too strict, a little too tough. I mean, what is this reality system going to be here for millions of years, and in the end of the day, like five guys from Skokie get out, and the other billions and billions are doomed? I don't buy that. I don't think we have to be. And this does assume, of course, consequences, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Consequences versus no consequences, but I don't think we have to be perfect. There might be a certain thing we have to achieve, or the decision could be our own. This whole reality is out to, at the deepest, rootest levels, to convince you failed. The decision, that's where at the bottom right it says self-judge. It could be as simple as that talking to yourself, talking to your spiritual self, or the part of you that's not here, or your higher self, or God, or whatever your belief system is, to say, I succeeded in this. Maybe I've gone around here before, maybe I haven't, but in this one I've succeeded. Self-judge. Or the first conversation, I have to redo that. First conversation after a failed life experience, I have to redo that big time, because a lot of my belief sets have changed. But it's the same negative imagery that we should never really think that is going to occur at death. The archon or the demon pops up, and I don't buy that stuff. And I have to definitely change that presentation in the book as soon as I can. It's actually could be harmful if people think there's going to be some nasty thing that pops up in their face at the moment of death. But it could be that simple, where whatever says, all you had to do was declare yourself a winner, and you didn't. That's where karma comes in. You went into the moment of death with doubt. It was up to me? I could have done it. It was up to me but you can't fool yourself. You can't fool yourself. You can't just shout out into the 2x2 acoustical tiles on the ceiling of your hospital bed that you were a winner, when you were a loser and you didn't do what you needed to do or do enough here. Can't fool yourself. Most of us here, like, already are going, yeah, I've done enough. Like, almost now, most people listening to this would consider themselves winners. Doesn't matter how bad This is the idea where redemption and all that comes in. It doesn't matter how lost you were in the past. I was a complete child of the Matrix. 1999, in the insurance company office in San Francisco, one of the big high rises, a bunch of cubicles and office people coming and going, flipping through, like I don't know what the books from cars and stuff. Like, should I lease this car? Should I lease that car? Not that, we all have to lease a car, I guess, to get around, but that was like the greatest thing, like the leather seats, and it was all about materialism. I was a child of the Matrix. It was the 7-Eleven job application event. Spend 2 nights, get the third free at Millennium Hilton, with a good view of One World Trade Pyramid. That's what woke me up and woke a lot of people up. If the creeps have to execute certain things, the rules here, or the contractual rules here, seem to be that the reality itself is like remember, it's a truck and tractor pull. It has to give itself away as they take bigger bites of the shit sandwich. Then the ridiculous things will more and more pop up in our face that expose the reality itself, which gives us tremendous insight as to who we truly are spiritually. I think the reality moved more, the dark part of the reality, the minions and the assholes, moved more slowly 3, 4, 5 decades ago, and therefore what needed to be given away in terms of the absurdities used by us to wake ourselves up, didn't have to be as strong. People do fight me on that. I'm convinced that their presentation was far more believable than it is now. I don't even think there's any question about it. And the same example, Walter Cronkite. Obviously, we know the deception of what Vietnam. There's no reason to be there. Gulf of Tonkin was cooked up. A lot of people went in. A lot of people died. But Walter Cronkite, reporting from Vietnam, he probably believed every bit of it, as he was a younger reporter at that time. He wasn't in the Eyes Wide Shut parties yet. His presentation, it was believable. It would be the very rare exception of anybody watching Walter Cronkite report from the fall of Saigon that it was like cooked up, and how they cook up everything on both sides. There's only a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction back then could have seen what we see today. And what we see today is mostly, or partially, because the absurdities, the way the reality exists today, have to be given away. It's not, you get some meat in the 70s, and you're not sure, you're in the diner like, it smells a little bad, but I'm still hungry. It actually, should I eat it or not? I don't want to eat it if it's bad. And you're not sure. Where today, like you go to the damn diner and they put this thing of meat in front of you. It's all putrid. It's mostly liquid. There's maggots, and there's a rat running around on your plate. And you're like, it's not hard to tell that what they're serving up is putrid today. Now, why the guy down the cul-de-sac can't see it, or your cousin can't see it, that's for another, different reality bubbles and all that weird stuff is for another conversation. But once you wake up the way anybody here listening has, it's whatever their tricks are, or the bad meat that they put on the plate in the Triple X diner, it's not hard to determine it's bad. We can see through the shit immediately now. So back to the diagram, at least at this point, like the entire reality is set up to pull everybody off to the hard left and to hide the real nature from them, to hide you from what you truly are, to constantly just force tricks and distractions down people's throats until the day they die. So the day they die, I was going to say they're as lost as they were coming in, but it's worse. They've accepted the false idols, and they've accepted all the false constructs their entire life. They're worse off than the day they came in at birth. And if you can see anybody looking, if you can't see it, I'll describe it. There's one arrow. There's a lot of arrows going off to the left and a lot of arrows going off to the right. It's the only way I could really present it. This is not accurate, because nobody is born and then you come into this earth system and it's the delta, it's the change, or the difference, the spiritual difference in you. Nobody goes off right to the right immediately. Nobody. Somebody born in some monastery in the mountains somewhere. I don't know. Like Julius of twins born on the island. Did he go off? Vincent, I was cared for from birth. Maybe there's a few people, one out of millions, that immediately go off to the right, but we all go off to the left for the most part and get sucked in by this system and materialism and lower chakras and false idols and believing the news and all this stuff. But there's one arrow that, there should be millions of arrows that start off left and then loop, the arrow that loops above metamorphosis. It's SEE, go see Ovid's Metamorphosis. Basically what's saying what this whole reality system is. The arrow loops then back towards, the redemption, back towards the right. And, I don't think it matters whether we come into these truths, at age 20 or at age 65 or whatever it may be. There's time to pull yourself off to the right side, and again, the correct side, I guess. So maybe it's appropriate that it's the right side and the left side here. And the only thing I didn't talk about in the diagram, I probably shouldn't even. It's just going to confuse the subject. At the top, I drew an Ouroboros, and one possible interpretation of the Ouroboros as it relates to this presentation is the Ouroboros bad or good, or it can be both. It might represent the awake person or the spiritually aware person starting to eat away its old self and rejuvenate or replenish with the new self, or if somebody has been fooled. And this gets into the old concept, I presented years ago that a lot of people didn't like about giving away soul tokens. But if that's so terrible, then what's the whole point of the loosh sucking? Loosh isn't loosh sucking, giving a piece of yourself away. But the bad Ouroboros would be like the giving away of soul tokens. Whatever the good aspects or true spiritual aspects people have, the system kind of chews up and spits out. And the good part eats itself and produces the bad. So I think the Ouroboros can be interpreted, as most things here, in almost any major symbolism, symbolism. It can be interpreted in using the concepts of symbology to interpret the symbolism. That would be correct. You interpret it multiple different ways. If anybody, the back of the dollar bill, why they cover the eye, it's the way the whole reality works. If anybody says, well, I know exactly what that means, and they have it all figured out, and there's some know-it-all, and then it's not that simple. Even if the creeps intended it to mean this or that, the way the reality works at the fundamental governing dynamics level, there's going to be multiple interpretations. It's like the same old, maybe that, Matt, don't you know that covering the right eye is the whatever pillar and the sun pillar and the moon pillar and all? I don't care to know all that. And maybe that from that perspective of Greg Marblard in the Omega House, that might be correct, but it's the way the reality works. There's always going to be multiple interpretations. It gets into Vanessa VA's retrocausality language. These people that write these songs, they don't mean to have this incredible spiritual message coming. They have no clue. It flows out because it's the contracts or the way the rules of this reality. What did Raphael sent me? Bob Seger, No Man's Land. And I started thinking about, he said there's some truth in there about basically calling, it's Bob Seger and No Man's Land, in a way describing a reality that's like the Bardos. And I didn't listen to it that closely. And the point is that specific song is not the point here. No reason to go over to it or anything like that. It's just that I'm listening to this song and I'm going, what's this, the 1000th song or this 2000th song where the artist or the songwriter has no business writing such poetic, with such poetic language or license, or it's just like, so most songwriters write in this cryptic, poetic, spiritual way, but how is that possible? It's almost like one of the rules of this reality. I always go back to Live, but this one's coming to my head. Throwing copper, lightning crashes a new mother. Her placenta falls to the floor. I mean, there's no, again, live might be a bad example. Maybe they are some sort of bloodlines or whatever, or have some sort of esoteric training. But all these bands are writing in this high level poetry. I just don't buy how that's possible. Aren't we told most of these 22-year-olds are just out with doing lines of coke and having three women at once and boozing up and party? And where did they get all the esoteric occult training? Again, I always use live. It doesn't matter. Somebody will come to me like, well, Matt, it doesn't matter if I'm right about live or not. Out of 100 bands, 95 have produced a work or two, like Silent Lucidity and all that. That has this high spiritual message. That it either the creepy piano player comes in and says the rules of this game say we have to give these spiritual sons of bitches what they ultimately need to wake up. That's the rules we minions play. The creepy piano player pops up, or it just channels through them somehow. But I'm listening to Bob Seger, No Man's Land. I'm going, yeah. Oh, what a coincidence! This is the 10,000th song where there's some high level poetic writing. It just happens over and over and over. But these rockers are supposed to be stupid idiots that really most of them didn't graduate high school. They picked up their guitar. They do it for the fame and the women. There's probably, if I went back and listened to every Motley Crue song, there's probably some sort of strange retrocausality in that Tommy Lee shit. So it's just the way this reality works. So, Matt, you've talked an awful lot if it's just a half page or one sentence. Oh, well, I have to bring everybody up to speed, but yeah, okay, let's just do the one sentence. You agreed to come in here. You knew, or your higher self or spiritual self knew that this is a place of change, the delta. You ain't going to go out as you came in. You're going to change for the worse, or for better or for worse. Where'd that come from? You're going to change good or bad before the moment of death. It's up to you. Now, the tail of the tape of what in terms of grades, how do I know? Well, we know instinctively what's right and what's wrong, but that's what the list on the left is for. Let's just go over it. It plays the same game with everybody here. The top signs you into camps. Join a group. Classifications, even Homo sapiens sapien, getting somebody to believe that's the genus and species that they really are. That's like the straw man trick. Could talk for hours just about this first one. Every time somebody joins a camp, BLM, all the Puerto Rican Day Parade, the Irish Day Parade, any sort of group or camp is what this reality wants you to do. Constant move towards the zeros and ones, constant move towards the illusion that they created, the technological or the technocracy illusion, which crypto is part of moving yourself per your own free will towards the digital, towards that no man's land at the end of the 13th floor, or into willingly walking yourself into the matrix code. That's what the Zuck the Borg's Misery Loves Company, that's what it wants from people. Constantly asking people to make more contracts with itself. And I declared it, I've talked about this in the past, but I declared it once. I was on a website yesterday where it said, choose the right image so I know you're not a robot. This is all about, in my opinion, making contracts. Say I agree to this and this, and we'll do this for your transaction. And I don't even do it anymore. For years, I was like, I'll click this because I need this stupid-ass service. But I'm not agreeing to anything in the fine print here. I've said that so many times, an affirmation, that I don't worry about clicking through anything anymore. If they're going to play games where you clicked on this and you gave a part of yourself away, I've affirmated, I made that word up, I affirmated that away a long time ago. If you haven't, do it right now. Pause the video and say, if I ever click through anything for the rest of my life and there's any sort of trick in there, I'm calling the trick out, and I don't agree to it. Do it right now. Say it out loud, and you're done. I mean, what would we need to keep doing these sorts of things? It plays a trick. I don't think it's as simple as, it's all. We all get a get out of jail free card because of these quote false tricks that have been played. They probably give us enough chance to see through it, just as we're doing right now, where they could say, hey, because Matt and these people saw through it, these people don't get a pass. That's what the creeps would present if they were called before a judge. And, Matt, then you're hurting people. I don't think I'm hurting anybody, but you know what I mean. You'd say, Matt, and these guys over here figured it all out. So no, so Your Honor, these creeps would say, Your Honor, we had a nice balance of hiding the truth with putting it in plain sight. Because Matt and all these people over here, we hope never come back here into our speedboat system. We hope they get the hell out of here and stay out of here. Hopefully, they would say about us. So continuing the left, let's just try to do this in under 5 minutes, and it could take an hour. Love of false things. I mean, how many examples of that are there? 80 million. False authority on pedestal, whether it be celebrity worship, worshiping singers, looking to politicians. I mean, it's endless presentation of false authority on pedestal. Your cousins bow down to it. Your brother bows down to it. Your family, your friends. When we're just considered some outcast wackos over here. Next one. Nonsense distractions. Okay. The whole reality is nonsense distractions, maybe hundreds of millions of them. Identify. Oh, this is a key one, though. That once you identify with your false self, I think the 88 in Roman numerals, finus temporis, constantly showing the mirror symbolism in the movies, in the duality, and he shows how that's presented endlessly in movies, and you don't realize that's what the presentation is. John Travolta looking in the mirror in Saturday Night Fever. That's what 88 in Roman numerals, finus temporis, has done a great job with over the years. Part of that, there's a lot of different interpretations of that, but part of that is identifying with the false self. There's two selves here, endless duality presentation, the true self that the reality tries to hide from you, and the false self that it pushes to the forefront and gives the damn raise at work to and all that. So I think that's what the mirror presentations are. Next, this existence, this reality will tell you, this existence on earth here, it's all important. It's all that's important. Everything you need to do in life, you are a success if you open that fourth ambulance chasing law firm up. It's awards, it's metrics, it's applause, it's Nobel. If you're given a Nobel Prize, you're a loser. It's just take the opposite. If you're an older person listening to this and you were never up for a Nobel Prize or never up from you never got a leg lamp in the mail, a major award. Look, honey, it's a major award. The old man was excited beyond. It's a major award. If you never got a major award or a leg lamp from this system, you're on the verge, or you've already won. So it's all, just take the opposite. Idols, it says, did you battle to fix the world? Are you battling with your pickup truck army to take Hillary Clinton's off to jail? That's exactly what it wants. What was it, 2 days with Biden and Trump? They didn't know. I mean, they knew 50 years ago who would win the quote election, end quote. But then it was announced 2 days later, 3 days, whatever it is, Biden won. And people, I'm not as bad as where Rob lives in Connecticut, but it's Democrat central, the suburbs of Philadelphia, blue state, zombie hell, and people were blowing horns. People were blowing a horn, and I had known the quote election was up in the air, and they started blowing horns. I thought, okay, Biden had to have gotten it. And of course, that's what it was. But somebody that would go do that is so lost. There is no more higher definition of lost. Excuse me. And I know who did that. And they're smart, they're educated, and that, as we've said, that is in no way a translation into having a spiritual clue here. I mean, to blow a damn conch shell because a politician won is the definition of a 3-time loser in this reality plane of existence. And someday something's going to happen to, things happen to old people, and something's going to happen at some point, to Hillary and the Pelosi monster. And there's a part of me still that wants to run outside with my conch shell and go, ding dong, the wicked dead, the wicked witch, ding dong. I'd like to go do that and start a high-heeled parade. Not like the one that's on Market Street, in San Francisco. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but a parade, a little Munchkin parade. But I'm not going to do it. It's exactly what it would want me to do. And the Democrats up the road be like, yeah, I didn't really love Pelosi either, but they shouldn't be out applauding it. It just creates more friction. It's exactly what the system wants. Okay, where were we again on the left? The Transor Z battle to fix world. You can't. It wants you to try to go fix it. You can't fix it. The left is about the material before the spiritual. Well, you know what's going to be over on the right, the spiritual before the material. I'm not sure we'll even do anything on the right. I'll look closely and see if there's not a parallel to everything presented on the left. On the left, Big Bang is what started everything. Matter before consciousness. If that's what they present, then we know what the real answer is. We know the real answer is it's consciousness before matter. It's that simple. See, they do all the work for us. That's if they, the minions of science, and the people like Stephen Hawking out there with their voice boxes, or making a presentation, those minions of science saying it's matter before consciousness, and the brain somehow develops from things crawling out of the sea, then all we have to do is we know then the opposite is true. Yeah, it's that simple. If that's what they say, then we know for sure consciousness before matter. How do you know that? Because they said the opposite. It's not that hard. This side on the left seems to create some sort of strange egregores, like weird McDonald's franchises in the movie Branded. I'm going to be on the side that don't create no thought form demons or no egregores or whatever. I don't want to put my energy into something like the predator that climbs in the trees. I'll keep my energy for myself. Thank you very much. On the left, fosters the Zuck the Borg side on the left, grows the ego, gets the ego out of control. So the reality system through waffles on boxes has to present the truth drop of Lego my ego. I really believe that in some way that's let go of my ego. That's stuff for the loony bin. I know. But maybe that's related to the waffle parties in the Apple TV show Severance. But in this case, I disagree with a lot of the truth community that says like the ego is horribly bad, destroy it. No, it's necessary in this place, just like an arm is necessary, or a hand, or an opposable thumb, fingers. It's necessary here. And I think on the right it says probably something like keep ego in check. Can't find it right now. Keep ego in check. Symbiosis with the ego. It's a necessary part that makes the engine go. Simply have to keep it under control, not destroy it, or you want to just cut your arm off. I think that interpretation by some of us, at least in this community, is completely wrong. In this place, it's needed, okay, and it can be actually used. So that's all. What are we on the left here? Merge with the superhighway. Just go along with the ride. Do what everybody else is doing. Just merge right up on that superhighway. And if you're Tesla, you just lean back, take your pants down, and the thing will drive itself, and you can have fun with yourself. Your self-driving Tesla. On the opposite would be the road. I'm so confused by what the damn poem is after that video a week or two back. The road not taken. I'll say the road less traveled. I think that's my Mandela effect version for Robert Frost. The road less traveled, not merging on no super highway with everybody else. Lower chakras on the left, all that's important. On the right, what's important? The higher chakras. So damn simple. What does the reality push? The true answer is the opposite. It's so damn simple. The left side pushes the boogie nights, the lower chakras. I just want, what did Marky Mark say? Is Dirk Diggler and Chest Rockwell? Was it Chest Rockwell? He was Brock Landers. He wasn't Chest Rockwell, but Dirk Diggler he was. He said, there's some people call these films dirty. I'm just looking forward to making better films. That's all he thought. He thought that was achievement in life. Sorry. Seeing the differences in people is what the system wants. Oh, seeing the differences in people. We're going to come back to this one related to, the racial stuff that's kind of pushed now. Where on the right, it's seeing the similarities. And then ultimately, if you back up far enough, seeing that the ultimate truth is we're likely all one, came from the same place. Seeing the divine similarities in all of us. And they use the race presentation now is so false the way they present it. It's actually used so people notice the differences. It's the way the system presents it now creates more race problems by design and on purpose. I hope I get a chance to talk about that, but I don't want to jeopardize this video. I'll do it sometime on Free Voice. Almost done on the left. Seek approval from others. Yeah, the system wants you seeking approval from others, and self-approval is on the other side. Simple. Self-judge. Death is a horribly sad thing the system presents. Death, Chris Rock, Death at a Funeral, the movie. It's not, then the opposite. Then death is a wonderful thing that should be celebrated. You just take the opposite. So damn simple. And they call us, if they want to call us Homo sapiens, 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 zuckies, then as a real person that's understanding your spiritual nature, you're not Homo sapiens, 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 zucky. You are no classification at all. I declare right now, I'll declare again. You can do it on your own right now. I am not a species and genus and a phylum and asylum and an asylum and all that shit you try to classify my avatar as. I guess seeing through it, starts right there, saying at least, at first we're going to take it far beyond this. We're noticing that it's trying to classify my body or my avatar, and I don't even accept that. But most people accept their whole nature, their whole essence of being. The guy down the cul-de-sac. Oh yeah, I think that once the system wants the real person at the end of the cul-de-sac to say, yeah, their whole nature of being. Yeah, I'm Homo sapiens, 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 zucky. They've lost the differentiation that it's even supposed to be about the body, and that's what the second sapien is. Second sapien. That gives it away right there. If it was real, they'd come up with another name or something. What should we do to classify the modern human that's now merged with the Zuckerberg device? What's that movie is from? The what device? Oh, the Genesis device from Star Trek, from Khan. The Genesis, that's Dr. Marcus. The Genesis device. They probably came up with that at the creepy table. What do we call the percentage of what they'll call human beings that have completely on their own taken themselves that close to the digital through the Borg device, like the Genesis device? I don't know, just put another sapien on the end, and that'll designate the zombie. That'll designate that they're basically one step away from the Netflix series Upload, where they just upload their consciousness into a Ray Kurzweil Zynga machine. Guys, let me pause and ask you a question, a comment or some troll, but it wasn't really a classic trolling, said in a snarky way a few videos back. Matt, you quote so many movies, which means you watch so many movies, and I forget the exact quote, but it was kind of like the end was like, doesn't that mean you're a and he used the word douche, so I'm just going to use the word he used. Doesn't that mean because you can quote so many movies and therefore you watch so many movies that you're like a total douche? It's like, well, what? What? Well, first off, let me just speak to that here, and I want to ask you guys a question as to if I should do a show where I kind of just go and rip into commenters. I don't know if you guys would like that side of me or not. I've never done that in a presentation, so I'm going to ask you that in a moment. But just to speak to this genius, studying the dark part of reality for, let's see, YouTube channels, Texas Shrugged and Texas Shrugged book, probably goes back to 2009 or 10, and then I was doing it for a few years before the YouTube channel. You're looking at, like, I don't know, 14 years in a row with no days off. Zero. Go zero, I'll be sure, in the strength. Go look at how many rises, planet rises, and Mirage Aron conferences I've attended. Every single day I've done this. There ain't no vacation or anything like that. There ain't no Picard vacations at Risa. So I need an escape. The point is, my escape is watching a movie at night, usually with a few light beers. Okay, I need an escape. So what do you want me to do? Anyway, so should I present commenters that are just completely at the trolls as well as just the mind numb, and then without, I won't show their name or anything like that and just rip into them. But some people, I don't know, you might not like that side of me. It can be a little nasty and a little condescending and like I said about my this old girlfriend Missy when I was watching the Oscars. She literally like, I never saw this side of you, and I don't like it. It scares me. I don't know if I should do that because it could get a little nasty. Let me know what you think, guys. Do you want once a week? Should I pull out? I mean, this will also keep hopefully some of the trolls in check. Right now, he puts a comment about how I just get up in the morning and immediately put my hands down my pants, and that's all I do all day. If I see it, I'll delete it or remove the person from the channel. But I've never gone back with again and shown their name and their avatar name and ripped the comment, which could dissuade some of these idiots from making the comment because most of the time they're so rippable. I mean, and the comments don't even make any sense to begin with. I just looked down at my list to continue the list, and I kind of answered my own question. The need to rip commenters probably plays into some sort of ego issue, and I guess I just answered my own question. We should probably leave these little rain men alone. Okay, let's do for 5 minutes or so the no consequences, no spiritual consequences versus spiritual consequences argument in light of what I just presented. Now, if anybody's struggling with what that means, there are, I don't know, I would say 20% of our community here is pretty hardcore no consequences. 80% is consequences, and I lean on the 80%, but I've come closer. These people have made some strong arguments, and I've come down the path a little bit towards them. But they don't think there's any spiritual consequences here of making the wrong decisions. It is just the absolute opposite of like a Christian perspective. They say, Matt, your higher self or the spiritual aspect of you, whatever your belief set, would never let any harm come to you. They can basically the way they present it, and I don't mean to speak for them because I'm not in that camp. I'm more in that camp than I was, but it almost seems like you just run out in traffic all day and push little old ladies in front of buses all day, and there's no consequence for anything. I don't. The point is, why does the system behave like this if there's no consequence, spiritual consequence for any action or decision here on this place we call Earth? Why does it? You've heard me make this presentation before, guys, so I'll keep it under 5 minutes. Why does it work so hard then to pull everybody onto that left side? To trick them about this, to trick them into breathing life into their straw man, to believe that NASA's putting tuna fish cans together. Just a constant trick, constant deception, constant distraction. Why is it working so hard to pull everybody off to the left? Doesn't matter, right? I think if I could speak for them, they would say, well, look, Matt, whatever the minions or the wardens here, the Warden Nortons of Shawshank here, they need to harvest the energy. They need it for their very survival. And it's ultimately, if they suck a bunch of energy out of you, they're not going to be able to destroy you. You're too powerful. Your higher self or the part of you that's not here would never allow that to happen. And that I understand that position, but whoever designed this game board, it's not the, again, guys, I don't think I need to be saying this to this group or whatever, but it's the minions run around in the game board. Whatever George Bush was handled by Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney is handled by things that are served by Jared, pigs and blankets. And then ultimately there's, who knows what's at the top of the org chart. There's probably nothing we could ever point to, the screen, the not milk, etc. What is they didn't design this reality system or this game board or whatever. They're just, look, do I know that? But no, but it's obviously, they didn't, they're just way beyond their means. So they're playing a role here. They're playing a role for the original game designer. Why is their role to constantly pull everybody off to the left side? Every time I do this, it feeds back into the filter theory that I presented probably 4 years ago now. And it's still a primary theory of mine for all of existence, that God, source, the original point of creation, is not perfect. I could go, here I go again. You've heard me do this. But why people assume it's perfect, I have no idea. To me, it broke itself up into trillions and trillions of pieces or into trillions and trillions of realities or whatever it may be, maybe to take the good parts of itself back someday and to leave or to flush the bad parts of itself. Why is that so hard to fathom or so out there? It's the most logical explanation. Well, it's not logical at all, Matt, because God would have to be perfect. Why? Why? Where'd that come from? I'm not talking about the Christian God or anything, just the original point of creation, whatever your belief set or religion. Why would it have to be perfect? Look out your window. Look out your window. There's like a motorcycle gang beating a little old lady with baseball bats in some city somewhere in some alley. That's a perfect God? Really? I mean, the evidence is it's not perfect. It doesn't want to be called he or she. Why would it want to be called he or she? Calling God or original source creation far more respectful. And he or she associated with genders in this earth place? You think God wants to be associated with that one gender? He wants, most they call him he, but the gender here, he runs around with a hairy back, gets a fat double watermelon gut, little dingling flopping around. The other gender, you want to call it she, has that monthly issue that's kind of a pain in the neck. I mean, I can't speak for God, but I doubt it would want to be a he or she. If the maggots saw you as a god, or you walked by and there's some maggots in the dirt and they looked up like, oh my goodness, what is Zeus or something? Would you want them to call you a maggot? See what I'm saying? Okay. So, guys, let's not stray too much. The original point of this segment is the evidence for the no consequences people and the consequences people. The no consequences people hate my soul token analogy of freely giving parts of yourself away. Some would interpret that be louche energy away. But, when I first presented the concept, I would come, again, a little bit more towards the middle on the no consequences people. When I first presented the concept, it just seems like the entire reality with the minions as the maestros, they get people to give parts of themselves away, potentially parts of their spiritual selves or soul tokens. It's similar to in my opinion, to the Harry Potter concept of Horcrux in a way. And maybe you can give too much of yourself away where there is spiritual consequences. So no matter what your belief is on what side, this type of presentation does favor the consequences, folks, because they've never really addressed this in the proper way to me. What are they working so hard for to pull everybody off into that left side? If there's just no consequence, what did the spiritual being or soulful being of whatever we are, why did it even come into this reality? It could just, is there any situation you've gone into that's just can only be good? It can never have, there's no bad that can ever happen? Well, Matt, if you believe there's bad, then it's up to you. That is possible. That is possible. I always return to that what we believe we get going into death or at the moment of death or whatever is what we get. That is be very wary of that. That seems to override a lot when I do these sorts of comparisons, consequences, no consequences. Yeah, you believe there's consequences? There's consequences. You believe you could give all yourself away? You've just done it to yourself. They didn't do it to you, Matt. You believe karma can be a giant Jacob Marley chain that pulls you back into this reality time after time? Then it will, if you believe it. Tony used to tell me, he said karma was his biggest pet peeve of all time. Tony, I haven't emailed him back and forth we haven't spoken for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, but he told me a lot over probably a 3-year period, and the karma was his big pet peeve, like that it exists so people believe that potentially they haven't exercised their karma, and they're doing it to themselves. It's the chain is created by themselves. This gets over to the right side, self-judge or self-approval. Where could it be as simple as just saying to yourself, whether you're 70 or 80 or if you think you've done enough, but you have to be honest with yourself at 35 or 40, you've won or you've done enough, then you declare it on yourself, but you can't fool yourself. This does seem to be the truth to me, like from an inner knowing perspective. Like I do it to my cats. Like, to me, it's potentially the cat is a far more advanced or part of a far more advanced being that's here to help me. I really believe that. not that we're here to help these animals and here to help them along, and they're so spiritually below us, and they're such doomed creatures, and they should be so glad to have our help. I think it's the opposite. I think the moment I changed was when Bell came. No question about it. I was looking at the 7-Eleven job application and all that. I got Bell in 2014. I was in the middle of doing this sort of analysis, and I was seeing through the fraud. But the moment I changed, like into my core, was when Bell, my original Tourdy, came, who died in 2018. There's no doubt in my mind they're here for us. Maybe it's an aspect of ourselves. Who knows? Whatever it may be. But when I say to my cats, I don't know. Okay, I don't know the spiritual level that a cat would be on or a dog would be on. But I don't leave anything to chance. So I say to Bootsy, I'd say, Bootsy, maybe it's up to me, but whatever you are, you've won. You've helped me. You can't help me any more than you have. You've helped me. And you've whatever you were designed to do here, you've succeeded. You've won. And I always assume maybe it takes someone to declare that for potentially an animal to stop doing what it's been doing. But who knows? Matt, that's contrary to what you just said about them being high. Yeah, it is. But I'm just saying I'm not going to take any chances. I'm going to declare that Zara's won. And Bootsy's won, and Bell's won. But anyway, that's just me. Sorry to stray too much. That's a little bit odd, I know. But these cats have been a big effect on my life since 2014. There are people in our community that talk about they don't like when parts of our community talk about this being a test, and they'll say that they're more about this being a trick. Like we were probably tricked. They'll say, I don't believe this at all. They may say, we were tricked to be here. We're tricked to come back. The trick's after death. Archons come after death. And it's a big trick, and it's almost impossible to escape. And it's the don't go into the light thing, go into the light. And I have huge issues with this. Huge issues. And the evidence is overwhelming on the other side. Because the presentation's like, you come in here with a mind wipe. You don't know what to do. How could we ever be expected to win? We're not given the rules of the game. We come in blind. Everything's a trick. Well, I would say, well, then how are we succeeding now then? If it's so rigged on one side, how are we succeeding now? And it's not as rigged as those types of presentations say it is. Once you open your eyes up a bit, or your perceptions up a bit, there's almost too much evidence for given to us on what we need to do for ourselves. Let me repeat that. It's the opposite of the game being rigged, where we're blind to everything. We're mind wiped. We don't know the rules of the game. How can we do a math equation if we don't know whether to add or subtract, or we're not told what to do? To me, the evidence is now too much on the other side. There are too many works of art that basically the truth flows out of. Movies, absolutely. The retrocausality language in songs. There's like 1,000 songs now that speak to us spiritually, at least a segment of the song, where the writer didn't know what they were doing. There's too much evidence. Every day now something hits me, reminding me. I like to be reminded of what I already know if it's reminding me of the most important things to know about existence itself. I'll take that reminder every single day. I want those reminders to keep coming. When it's the best news of all time, I'm never going to be upset that I'm reminded when it's the best news of all time. So I would say, again, whatever tricks might exist, or what did we do all this work for here to be able to see what we see now, if it doesn't translate through the moment of death? And then the same thing holds, or the argument on the other side, why are these creeps working so hard to fool us, to get us to make contracts, to get us to worship false idols? Why are they working so hard? So we take, in this diagram example, this left side path. Why are they working so hard if they just have full control at death? It doesn't make any sense. Does not make any sense. If they just have some charismatic archon can swoop in at death and just fool you to do whatever or go into the wrong light, well then why would they work so hard? It's only about Loosh. That's it. They needed to sustain. That's the only thing they could come up with. They needed to sustain their sustenance or their energies. It just there's more to it than that. If they're working off, let's just start with the absolute basics. Everybody here would agree with me, and I'm sorry to speak for you, but everybody here, unless you stumbled in from Skokie looking for, what types of satin and semi-gloss stains to apply on maple wood, and you stumbled upon this by mistake, everybody here would agree that they work so hard to fool real spiritual beings. They don't take a day off. It's constant, 24/7, 365. If we're just screwed to death with tricks and they've got us, what are they doing all this for? Therefore, when we are able to move towards the right side of this ledger and see through all the bullshit and understand the nature of ourselves, that obviously will translate through the moment of death. Is that such a stretch? It's common sense. It gets right back to the same way I start off Melvin and Bezzo. I'm not going to do it for more than 10 seconds, but it starts off the same way. Melvin P. asks Bezzo, Hey, Bezzo, how are we going to screw these people this week? Bezzo, how are we going to screw them this week? How are we going to screw them today? How are we going to screw them tomorrow? That's all the minions do. How are we going to screw them, if you don't like that word? How are we going to fool them? How are we going to trick them? How are we going to get them into false belief sets? How are we going to get them to give our energy away? Just substitute that for what Melvin says. If they had us and we had almost no chance of getting by these, quote, tricks at death, then Bezzo would simply turn back to Melvin P. and say, Melvin, we don't have to do anything anymore. We don't have to figure out a way to screw them or to hide reality from them this week or next week because we're so sure we got them at death. We got our Tammy Faye Bakers and Jim Bakers to swoop in along with Dracula at death, and they can't get by our archonic beings at the moment of death. So we got them, and we don't have to work hard in this reality anymore. And the fact that they work so hard to trick us here means they don't have us, at least for those that can see, they don't have us at death. And the biggest problem in this whole conversation is the metaphysical truth drop, carried through time. Be careful what you wish for. So you might feel confident we've done the work in this reality to be able to see through or get by any tricks, but I think Tony would agree with this and his advice to me over the years. If you might think you've done enough to get by the riddle of the Sphinx, to get by, but if you expect archonic tricks at death, you may be manifesting that and bringing it on yourself. Even if you have full confidence you'll get through them, maybe you will. But how about, be careful what you wish for. If you expect tricks at death, you might, or I don't want to say probably, you might just get that. If you've just constant telling yourself, I've done enough, higher self, we don't need to do this anymore. We don't need to play this game again. Call in all the other aspects of higher self. Call in all the other people or entities like me and all the other reality systems. Call them in for a party. We don't need to do this anymore. No trick at death. I'm out of here. So you see what I'm saying? It's like, it's one thing to be confident that you've done the work in life to get through the tricks. If you expect the tricks, many smart people would say, then they're going to come for you, whether you get through them or not. So it's better to know you're prepared for everything, then start working on the fact that you will get what you expect. So picture it. Who goes into death picturing and knowing exactly what's going to happen? The unknown is where they get you. We could be the first group in all of history. No, I hear you. The hardcore Christian religious or hardcore Islam Muslim, they've done this, or they're going to be with their gods, and they expect that. Then okay. Then I hear you. They expect that. Perhaps they get that or manifest that. But most people, even most Christians, would, I believe, probably go into the moment of death worried, afraid, not knowing the way some evangelical Christians just know they're going to be with Jesus. There's doubt. The whole reality's worked on them their whole lives, whether they're religious or not, to have doubt. Most people go into the moment of death with constant questions, fear, doubt. That is exactly what the reality wants. Go in with no doubt and picture exactly what you're going to get, because guess who it's probably up to? It's probably up to you. If you're driving, I switched images. It's just the back of the dollar bill you've seen a million times, the eye, the capstone. But guys, we have to start thinking like this. Of course, on one level, all the weird symbols that, quote, the creeps present, the back of the dollar bill, money is the physical representation of energy and assists in the loose process, and it's all evil. And okay, that level, I hear you. I hear you. There's a lot of weird things and runes on the back of the dollar bill, but I'm confident this is how reality works, the yin and the yang. So if it's as dark and as evil as it seems, at the same time, something of this magnitude, this order of magnitude must also be presenting the good at the same time. It can't get away with just one side of the, oh my gosh. This actually says ALAM, this actually says the image company. I just drag this in. Usually I look at the images because I don't want any issues. I stopped and cropped it out. You know those same big three image companies that think they actually believed it was in Google Images. They actually had the gall to believe that they could own the copyright on this in some way. I mean, is there anything lower than the image companies and anything more unnatural than how 100 million images a day in 4K from new iPhones and Galaxy S's and then three companies, all of which probably relate to the same boardroom table, control all images. I mean, if this by itself gives the false reality away, is there anything lower than these image companies or the people that run them? They should be ashamed of themselves. Sorry. So it can't hide on one side of duality. The yin and yang has to be presented together. So in the back of the dollar bill, it's also, if you look, it's probably the most wonderful message of all time for real people related to the presentation I'm making here. It's saying that the delta, the change, the metamorphosis. You're going to use the reality to bow down to everything we say that you should covet. And what do we covet, Clarice? We covet what we see every day. Matt, you quote these movie lines. You're a douche for doing that. We covet what we see every day. Right, Clarice? We covet what the news and what Lawrence O'Donnell presents to us every day on MSNBC. But see, it's also saying this reality is used for change, spiritual change. SEE. Ovid, go see Ovid, Metamorphosis. It's showing you on the back of the dollar bill. It's not just all evil. It has to show you the good at the same time. You can use the reality system. That's the way the creeps do business. It's like something in the book I wrote along these lines. It was supposedly FDR with his, believe it or not, agricultural secretary or something that decided to put the Great Seal of the United States, the Great Seal, back on the currency, or wasn't on the currency in 1850, but it was, I don't want to get into greenback and all that, and then it appeared on the currency under FDR. And it's like they have these rules. They have rules they have to abide by, in my opinion. It's like, well, we really want to, the FDR meeting, we really want to screw these people. Now we're putting in New Deal. We're going to take the tax rate to 91% or 92%, the upper tax bracket. That's not a joke. The FDR upper tax bracket, 92%. I'm sure there's deductions, but whatever. It's still offensive. We really want to screw them now. I mean, Woodrow Wilson, before FDR, ushered in the age of the ultimate screwing over and taking of freedom and taking people's gold and all this stuff. So what are we going to do? We got to pay him back per the rules here. FDR is probably saying to his creepy ghouls around the table. We got to pay him back. Well, give him. We've been trying to hide the Great Seal from people, and we've kept it buried, but pull out the Great Seal and put the ultimate image for good, if people will choose to interpret it that way, put the ultimate image for good on the back of the dollar bill, and then those dumb poor bastards, they'll be holding the most incredible image that basically can assist them or tell them about the transformation they need to make on this earth place of existence. They'll be holding in their hands the most powerful message of what their existence should be all about. And the dumb, poor bastards, they won't even look at it. They won't care to notice what's on the back of the dollar bill, and they certainly won't interpret it correctly. But because we'll give it to them, we'll put it on the back of the dollar, they'll have access to it every day. Every time they buy a damn aged hot dog that's been floating in the water too long in a ballpark, they have the chance to see the seal. That will allow us to build our Death Star to a degree. We'll give them, but sir, if we give them that, don't you think we're taking a risk? No, the poor bastards will never interpret it properly. All the evil, quote, evil stuff, guys, on the back of the dollar bill, the message, in my opinion, the yin yang, the duality, the good has to be there as well, and that what is on the back of the dollar bill, the change. The triangle in physics and math means change or delta, or the difference between you coming in and you going out. The good is there as well. It's up to us. Don't run from the triangle. Don't run from their symbols. Don't run from the 33. Use all that shit. It's not their shit. It's everybody's shit.